Hi, it's Tian. So today I want to do another solo lecture thing, and it's on the idea of moving from faith versus fear. I fear this might be too obscure, and people won't be able to relate to it. But um, it's like something I often think about when I make choices in my life. So I'm hoping if I can share some of my own insights, it could help you make better choices as well. Because ultimately, it's like, it's just about choices, right? If you can make, like, if you really break it down to like a moment to moment level, like, if you can make the choices that are the most aligned with you, that comes from your core and your soul and the gods and divinity and the universe, what have you, then surely that would spill out into the best outcome, right? But how do you know if it's a good choice or not, right? And I think you always know internally. You can feel the choice that your absolute core wants to make. Where it's like you might have a choice that might feel right. That just feels right, and you can feel it in your body, right? Whether it's a gut instinct or whatever you want to call it, but just somehow through your body, but it might not make logical sense, or there's no precedence for it in the past, so you don't really know. You don't have the future. The repercussion of that decision is unknown, right? But you just feel like it's right. Then I feel like when you make those choices, you have to go with a level of faith that you trust that that feeling is true, and you go for it. And you just trust it works out. And for me personally, it's always worked out when I've really felt that feeling in my body, right? And even if there was some fear, I'm like, rather than tuning into the feeling of the fear, if I can tune into the feeling of the faith, of like the idea, the thought of like, what if it goes well? What if I assume the best rather than assume the worst, right? Going with the sense of optimism rather than defaulting to this like everlasting pessimism, then it always works out. At least in my case. But also in other people's cases, like a lot of successful people, like they would give a similar advice of like, yeah, don't always overthink it and overplan it. Sometimes you just gotta feel it and you gotta go for it. And you gotta go with it with speed. And sometimes if you're too slow, the magic fades away, right? But if you feel the magic in that moment, you're like, boom, and you just fucking go for it, like Texas Smash, right? And you just go for it, like boom, and you hit life and that magic button, and it all works. Maybe being a Sagittarius, I have more affinity for this kind of lifestyle. But in general, I think if you move with that faith, your life does expand a lot more than you'd expect. If you really tune into your body, you kind of always know what you really want to do at any moment, like what choices you really want to make. Like you actually always know. But it's the noise and the fears of your mind that might cloud you, or your completely dysregulated ADHD nervous system because you're just a doom-scrolling fiend, right? Who knows? But if you can get back into your body and you listen to yourself, like you really be with yourself, and it kind of turns into this act of self-love where you really like, it's like a kid that just wants its parents' attention, and the parent is your conscious mind. But you're always running off trying to do this and that you never give it the time of day. But when you slow down enough and you listen to your child, this like infinitely wise child, and you listen to what they're saying, and you actually do it, it's like, whoa. Like this infinite joy, like a bright golden shooting star, like Jirachi. It just gushes out and coats your life in love and magic, more or less. But a lot of those choices might not feel reasonable or logical or predictable if you're coming from it only like a conscious, logical adult mind, right? Then you only live a semblance of the life that you really can live. You're cutting away like a piece of magic for safety in a way. But sometimes that safety turns into a prison, and it's not actually as safe as you think it is, right? The magic comes from the heart chakra. It's from the heart. You have to make those choices from love. And I faith it works out, rather than letting your fear cut it down every single time because you're like, no, child, you can't go running loose because it doesn't make sense or X, Y, and Z, right? Similarly, you can be too childlike, I suppose, and be too magical, and you don't have any adult mental structure to contain it. Then your life can also go into delirium. You become delusion, and you become those like really delusional people you find in Ubud, right? Like that's the other side of the spectrum, of course. But I find generally people are too stuck, especially in a society like Japan, for example, where I am right now. It's like they're really in their fucking heads. Like they don't know how to like let the love out, and it's actually just send the fire, like the that out, right? Like that. The world is missing that, and I think if you don't have that, and you're always in your head and being like an adult and shit, right? You start wars eventually. So that's why I'm harping on it, because I think it's the point that's out of balance, right? Having said that, the magic doesn't always have to be accompanied with fear and uncertainty, right? I think sometimes the magic is you feel it, and it's also predictably safe, right? Like your mind and your heart is in congruence, and I think, whoa, that's like the best moves. I love those, right? But I think it's important, even when it's not congruent, you still trust the magic of your heart, because I think, in my opinion, that's a lot higher than your mind. Like this is your heart, your intuition, your body, whatever you want to call it. Like that's God. Like that's a higher level prerogative. That's like coming, not prerogative, like input, right? Or like instruction, command, direction. That's like coming from the above, and it's like trying to come through you, right? But if you cock block that with your mind, then it's like you're living in a really scrawny little world that's basically built in fear, that your mind is like, oh no, this giant phallus of God is trying to come through, and that's not okay. I don't feel safe. It's too much, right? So it's like in those situations you still have the courage to let your heart make those choices. Maybe not all the time, right? You don't want to go off the rails, right? But more so than maybe what you usually do, that the usual person does, and not let the fear cut it off every time, right? But I will say, the bigger the leap of faith, the more explosion and the more your life changes, right? I think the smaller the leap, maybe it's good to start with, of course, right? The smaller the leap, the less magic potential it has to like explode your life, if you're looking to explode your life, of course. But I think you have to almost train your faith stat high enough to be able to take those bigger steps. Otherwise, if it's such a big jump that it completely just makes you feel endangered to an extent that's actually just really unhealthy, right? Then maybe you shouldn't take those steps, right? Because like sometimes, right, the best move is actually the safe and certain moves, right? And that's what your body's actually telling you. It's like, sometimes we're like, oh, we should do the leap of faith, right? I mean, this is more of a minority. And if I don't do it, then it means I don't trust myself. So you do the leap of faith, not because you really want to, because you're afraid if you don't do it, it's saying something about you, that you're a coward, and your life is going to be shit because you don't do it. But no, sometimes you genuinely just want to pick the safe choice, and that's really what you got to do, right? So my whole point is you got to listen to yourself, right? Whether you want to jump or you want to stay, whether you want to go or you want to stay. Like sometimes your body really is telling you to slow down and to shut the fuck up and just rest, right? Like, damn, bitch, you hot mess, like shit. Sit your ass down, damn. Stop trying so hard. Who are you trying to be? Okay, maybe not to that extent, but you get my point. Like sometimes your mind has an agenda saying that, oh, I should be done with this or that by that time, right? And then if you don't do it, then you're a piece of shit. At least in my mind. But if you force production, if you force yourself to do things when your body is telling you to slow down, not only do you damage your health, but you actually produce kind of shitty work that you might have to redo later anyway. So that fucking nobody wins, right? And I've experienced this many times in my life. So I'm telling you, like sometimes resting is literally the best move for your productivity, right? As a guy that likes to be as productive as possible, like I know sometimes like to go fast, you've got to go slow, right? Like, be like water, my friend. We want to be like fire and like fuck shit up, right? In the society. But no, the feminine slow approach is as powerful, if not more powerful. Well, I mean, I guess on average is equal to the masculine hustling approach. Both are important, right? So, like, how do you actually do it, right? I've been harping about this thing, but like, how do you actually do it, Tien? You might be asking yourself. I'm gonna give you an answer that might not be completely satisfactory, but it's the truth. It's like everyone has different ways to find themselves, as cheesy and vague as that sounds, right? Like everyone has different things that they do in their lives that makes them feel like, oh, yay, I'm back to me and I feel good, right? And I can list some common things, right? Maybe it's like meditating, it's like walking in nature. Maybe it's the cold water of a shower hitting your head and just fizzles your neuroticism away, right? Maybe it's doing breath work. Maybe it's working out really hard. Maybe it's that 7-minute ab workout video you find on YouTube that every time you do it, you just feel kind of stronger again, from my own experience. Maybe it's playing video games. Maybe it's hanging out with your friends, right? Maybe it's talking to loved ones. Maybe it's cats, right? Like, everyone has a different thing. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's gardening, right? Maybe it's reading. Like I can go on and on, right? But everyone has like their thing or a couple of things that really helps them feel like themselves again. So what's important is like you notice how you feel when you do certain activities, and if possible, you have like it's like a shopping list, but it's like an activity list of things that really help you feel like you. And you go back to it once in a while when you feel off, right? But in general, I would say, like, if you can slow down, like things like meditating really does help. Walking in nature, right? Just like to destimulate and to digest, essentially to digest all the experiences that you've gone through. Especially now with doom scrolling, it's like we're bombarded and bukkake with so much stimulation and emotions that it's like you constantly have this noise in your mind, right? That you're not able to come down into your body. So whatever you do is like to decompress and to digest everything is the key, Having said that, I think exercising, working out, whatever it is, dancing, right? Anything to help you get back into your body is the perfect antidote for a scattered mind, right? It's not just to always slow down and journal or whatever, but which can help, of course, but sometimes you just gotta fight the mental with the physical, and that's what balances it out. So like if you don't want to do like meditating, which might feel weird, like if you can just exercise or go for a walk, right, as the base minimum non-esoteric fucking activity, I think is a good start. Well, not that meditating is esoteric anymore. And then it's like when you're in your body and you feel the impulse to do something, you're like, oh, then you gotta just fucking do it. Like you gotta send it as soon as possible. Like time waits for no one. Just do it, my friend. Sure, make sure you take your keys and your wallet with you, right? But don't overthink, don't overplan it. It's like the universe loves speed. It loves it when you can just do it. Like a child, they feel it and they just fucking do it, right? And that's how they, boom, strike magic in the fucking head. Like, boom, that's why being a child is so magical, because you're just doing fucking shit that comes to you, that like explodes your heart with joy, right? You're not overthinking it and being all like, well, I don't know about that, Fred. What about this? Shut the fuck up, Fred. It's like, just go for it, Total rhythm. You're on rhythm. You're on beat. You're in tempo. Ba ba ba. It's music. It's a symphony. It's an orchestra. It's a masterpiece. You're conducting the symphony of the universe as it proceeds and it enters and it penetrates through you and you exit and you express that into this world. That's magic, my friends. Type shit. So, yeah. It's like, there was that story about how Michael Jackson, one day, it was like 3 a.m., he had this idea for a song, and he's like, producer friend, you have to wake up, we gotta make the song now. Producer's like, okay, dude, it's like 3 a.m., can we wait until the morning? He's like, no, we've gotta do it now, because the magic is here now. If I do it later, Prince is gonna do it, and then he's gonna have the magic, and I won't, or some shit like that, right? So it's that kind of idea of like, magic exists in a temporary time and space, right? And if you don't capture it when it comes, it kind of fizzles away, right? It's like catching lightning in a bottle, but the lightning is literally God. It's like divine essence that comes through your intuition that gets manifested as magic if you choose to do it in time, right? And you don't like over plan and overthink and let it fizzle away. So that's the key I'm trying to convey in this video. Going back to the things that make you feel like you thing, it's like, you know, in a way, I don't know if a woman feels this as well, but it's like post-nut clarity, right? Like after you cum, right? Or you oh, right? And you're like, and then you're like so clear, right? Like what can help you feel like that without, especially as a man, without actually cooming? I think for a woman, if you're just owing all the time, I think it's actually really healthy. So I would say that's a benefit of being a woman that is under talked about. So yeah, maybe as a woman, if you need to feel in your body and access your intuition, just you know, just play with yourself. As a guy, I think you got to be a little bit more careful. I suppose having actual sexual intercourse in a very loving, wholesome way is probably maybe the best way to come back into your body. I don't know. I haven't had sex in a while and not in a wholesome way either. Okay, let's not talk about that. So I can't fully say. But I do think if you do sex properly and not just out of lust or whatever and like one night stand from this dark agey place, it could be a really good way to reconnect back to yourself and with God. And same with your partner, right? It's like 2-in-1. Like what a good activity, right? But if you are single, there are also many ways to help you find yourself, as I've listed before. So, you know, you figure it out. Like, let me know if you commonly engage in the sax, you know, and the pound, like the wow, the bounce shaka, wow. If you find it helps you reset, that's the kind of the goal here, right? You reset, you feel yourself, you find your magic, boom, you do it, then fucking arrivederci, you know. Yeah, again, it's like I've never regretted making those decisions where I really feel for my body, and I do it. It's like literally every single time it works out really well, and I'm really happy I did it. Like I've never once regretted that, but I've regretted so many freaking times when I haven't done something, when I held my heart back because I was afraid, and it's like the most like like someone's just like on your balls, man. It's just like the most shriveled up fucking feeling, and I hate it, you know. But I still do it because sometimes I'm like, oh, but what if they think that this and that? And it's just fucking annoying, right? But, yeah. So, I think you'll never regret making choices that really come from your heart, is all I'll say for that. Even when it comes to purchasing things, and this is a whole other topic, like when you buy things you really want, regardless of the price, that thing actually expands you and it heals you in a way. And the money always comes back when you actually make choices that are aligned with you. And it's not to say you should always buy the expensive thing or like just spend all your money and be reckless with your money or something. No, it's like, for example, if you have a choice between an expensive item and a cheaper item, right? Let's say one is $10, one is $20, right? But you actually want the $20 item. Like that's what your heart is telling you. Like that's like a choice, basically. That's a move, right? In alignment with who you really are, the $20 thing. But if you decide to go for the $10 thing because you're like, oh, I want to, you know, I'm afraid of losing money, basically. It's not that I want to save money. I think that would also be a loving move. But it's like, I'm afraid of losing money. And you choose a $10 thing because your mind is like, I think it'll basically do what the $20 thing will do. And you choose it. Even though you don't really want it. Like, you really actually want the $20 thing. Then I find those choices don't go very well. And if anything, that $10 thing is not gonna give you what you actually want, and you end up buying the $20 thing anyway, and you end up spending more money than you would have if you just bought what you wanted in the first place, right? Like sometimes being cheap costs you more than if you just buy what you actually want, right? Like I think there's a difference between being frugal for the sake of your own discipline and your own savings that actually feels loving for you, versus being so cheap where it's almost like you're squeezing love and self-care out of your life that it fucks you up more than if you just release the grip that you have on the money, right? Similarly, you can also overspend and just like have no discipline, that you're spending in a destructive way that is not self-loving to actually what you want, right? And that would have the same effect. So essentially, it's not about if it's expensive or cheap, but it's like about choosing and buying the thing that actually is what you want. It's not about the money or the move itself, right? It's not about what you do, but it's how you do it. So it's like, how aligned is this move to me? Am I making this move, right? Like you literally ask yourself sometimes, maybe all the time is a good idea. It's like, am I doing this because I'm only doing it because I'm afraid of something. If I do it, something bad is going to happen. Or if I don't do it, something bad is going to happen. Or, am I doing it because this genuinely feels right with me? But maybe I'm a little bit scared, but it still feels just, I know it's right, like sometimes you just know. Am I doing this from love and have faith that this is the right move? Or am I doing this out of fear that doing it or not doing it is will turn into something bad, right? Especially there are times when you just don't have more information and it can swing either way. I feel like if you really feel like doing it, then I think you should do it, because given all things are equal, you might as well just assume the best rather than the worst, right? And I know for me, that's always led me into a better life than being fearful. And also fear, like the actual frequency or the energy of fear. Like if you live in fear for too long, that actually attracts illness and bad things to come into your life. It's right. It's like the literal energy of living in fear will create things to prove that fear, like prove that you should be fearful, right? And then you stay in a little bubble. And it's like, it's not even that the fear is being realistic. It's like the fear is literally making reality in a way for you, right? Whereas if you really choose things that's from your heart and you feel like good about doing shit, right? That elevates your energy, your vibration, whatever you want to call it, so high that it's like the fearful things literally can't touch you. These are lower level entities and scenarios. It can't touch you because it's like you're radiating this golden, invincible light that protects you from the bad things, right? So like literally doing the good things, so going towards the good things or things you want is sometimes the best way to get rid of the bad things that you don't want, rather than spending your whole time excavating shadows and trying to get rid of the bad things because you're afraid if you don't do it, it's going to harm you somehow. It's like, just go towards a good thing if you can, and only stop and deal with the shadow when you can't keep going towards the good thing, right? Like for me, that's a much better model of operation than spending too much time in the abyss. Like, not to say you want to avoid the abyss and the darkness and only go towards the light and become this delusional hippie, right? But you can be delusionally negative as much as you're delusionally positive, right? So, but I think as a general foundation, just stay in positivity as much as you can. If that's what you want in your life, if you want positivity and superior emotions and light emotions in your life, then go towards that feeling, right? If there are goodness for you to meet right now, then just go towards it, right? And then if there are bad things you got to deal with along the way, obstacles, then of course you deal with it, right? Rather than like constantly seeking out the obstacles in the first place because you're, I don't know, being paranoid or something, right? Like amplifying the good will do more good than trying to get rid of the bad, and there are so many stories of people that are like really obsessed with, they're really scared of certain things, right? Maybe germs or being sunburned, and they do so many like things to protect themselves. But then those people become more unhealthy, more neurotic, and then, they die earlier than people that just don't give a shit as much, right? They're just living their life and they're happy. And they're radiating this like life force energy, right? That's coming through them. And that keeps them young and healthy and wealthy, right? But when you're like so paranoid about every little thing, that will fuck you up much more than just being happy. The fear harms you more than the reality itself, right? Fear does more damage than reality, because fear makes that reality. I will never attend an anti-war rally, but if you have a peace rally, invite me. Mother Teresa, that kind of thinking, right? So, okay, I think this video's gone really long, but I do want to give like an example of choices where I made in fear that really fucked up. And if I could go back and change it, if it's like a video game, I would change the decision. I would like absolutely fucking do it in a heartbeat. But ultimately, like no choice is really a wrong choice, right? Like from a very high level perspective, it's all part of the story of your life. But sure, but then if you really, on a more realistic, practical level, I think there are lessons you can learn from your mistakes and your regrets that hopefully makes your life better, if you learn from those mistakes. So, but I'll touch on that after these examples. Okay, so there's one time in Turkey, and I was going to Japan from Istanbul to Tokyo. At that time, it was like COVID, so you needed to do a COVID test to go on the plane, right? But Japan being Japan, you had to do like an extra one for Japan because they want to be extra safe, right? Apparently. So I went to this like travel agency, and I did a test, but they did it in a really sketchy way where they were almost just like forging a test. They didn't actually swab me or anything. And I'm like, hey, are you sure this is okay? And it was really cheap as well, compared to one I had before, where he was like, it was like 10 times the price, and he was like, blah, 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 this and that. But I think that guy was trying to scam me. So anyways, like that guy was too expensive, but this one was too cheap, So I was like, are you sure this is okay? And they were like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay. And then I knew there was an option where like, if I went to the airport a bit earlier, I could do it at the airport. And of course, that's 100% legit. And it would be cheaper than the guy that was trying to scam me, but it would be more expensive than this travel agency. But at the time, I was like, it was stupid because I had a lot of money. Like, I had a decent amount of money at that time, and I didn't really need to be that frugal, right? But I'm like, oh, but I don't want to redo the test and then I repay and stuff. So fuck it, let's just send it and let's see what happens, right? So I went to the airport, I checked in, and it was really dumb. I went through the auto check-in rather than the desk. And the auto check-in didn't really like check your COVID test, right? It didn't really have the capacity to. So everything, I thought it was fine. I'm like, I checked in, everything's cool. And it wasn't until I actually got to the freaking gate and they were boarding people and I gave them my ticket and they were like, oh, can I see your COVID test? And I'm like, oh, sure, here it is. They were like, okay, but I need the other one, the Japan one. But I'm like, oh, I don't have the Japan one. Then they were like, well, you can't board. So, fuck, I felt so low and I really kind of like broke down a little bit, like, when you're traveling and shit. It happens. And they had to move me outside of the terminal, I guess. I went back to the airport, I redid the test, and I had to rebuy another ticket. That was like really expensive to get into Japan. Luckily, I had enough time, had enough money at that time to do it, but it was just such a demoralizing hit into the gut, the flow of traveling. And it's like, it could have been so easily avoided if I just paid a little bit more money to get that test and do things properly, right? Like being cheap did a lot more damage than just being proper. And that's the whole point. Like being proper is like sticking with your integrity. You're not overdoing things. You're not overspending, but you're not underdoing things. You're not underspending, but you're with yourself that you can genuinely feel all the time. And you do that. That's always the best move, right? So for me, that time was like a fear of money, I suppose. Fear of spending too much. That kind of really fucked me up. And then when I got to Japan that time, again, I was, I don't know, I was in a bad state of mind this whole travel route. I think I really was already over traveling and I just wanted to get back to New Zealand and rest. But I don't know, I was like FOMO. It was like fear of missing out. I'm like, I should try and make the most of it, blah, 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 of my time and stuff, right? So I went out and did more things than I wanted, even though I just wanted to stay in the hotel and rest. And then there was one time, I think, I was like at a bus stop and I was just like resting there. And I put my phone to my side and I went into a convenience store to buy something, and I realized I didn't have my phone with me. So I ran outside and I tried to look for my phone, but it was gone. And, being in Japan, like, there's so many stories of people saying, oh, yeah, people always return my phone to me, or they turn it into the police. People are really honest and stuff. But somehow my phone was lost, and some guy took it that was maybe not Japanese, right? And for me, it just felt like it was like universal karma telling me, hey, you're over fucking doing it. Like, you don't want to go out and have the experiences. You want to stay home at your hotel, yet you keep forcing yourself to do it because you have FOMO, right? The fear of missing out, a fear of time, essentially, right? Fear of opportunity. That it did so much damage that it was just not worth it, Like, I would have felt better if I stayed home. Like, the experiences I went to on that day wasn't really that meaningful, and it just felt like I was forcing myself, and I would have not lost my phone, right? So, yeah, but again, like I said earlier, it's all valid. Every experience, every mistake, every regret that you think was wrong, well, in a way, it's part of your story, right? And you had to make it one way or another. You can say it's fated, but you're fated to learn from it so that in the future you make better choices, right? So, and sometimes it's much better to accept the experience of the mistake rather than beating yourself up over it over and over again and feeling bad. Like, see that it is a valid experience that you needed to have. It was like destined for you to have, right? But don't be so like negligent of the fact that you betrayed yourself essentially at that moment when you made that choice, and to make a promise or make an effort with yourself to try not do that again in the future, right? And I think that's really important. You forgive yourself, but you also learn. Like, don't just forgive and redo and kill yourself again, right? Forgive and you learn, with any relationship. And yeah, like, generally, I guess the main practical takeaway is it's like, be more aware of how you feel basically throughout your day, and how you feel when you make choices as well. Like, the more awareness of you have over your inner state, your inner world and your body, shall we say, the more control and the more master you are of yourself and your life, essentially. And if you can be so attuned with yourself and always make choices that come from within, that comes from your divinity, your heart, your truth, rather than being based on what everyone expects of you or society, what you think you should do based on your fears, you will find, and I genuinely, this is like, I guess it's a belief, but I have absolutely no doubt this is the actual truth of the fucking world, at least in my own experience. If you can live through that heart more and more, and the closer you can get to 100%, like, the more fucking subarashi, like, wonderful, magical, godlike, divine your life becomes. So but that all begins with you tuning into yourself and loving yourself and being with yourself to make those choices where you don't betray yourself and you're doing it with integrity. The more you can do that, the more you feel that, the more it will lead you to the greatest life, right? Your purpose or what have you, right? Oh yeah, basically, I forgot, like, this is a purpose channel, right? To the idea of purpose, but it's like, yeah, like, on a very micro moment-to-moment level, if you can just pull this off, if you can pull this ability off of, like, operating from that truth, then yeah, you don't need to think about purpose. Like, everything you do is purposeful. Everything you do is gold, right? Everything you touch turns to gold. So, yeah, because I know some people, they don't have like, oh, I want to be an astronaut when I grow up, right? And then it's like, well, then how do you really live purposefully or truthfully? Then it's like, well, you don't really need to have this idea of what your purpose can be. I think for some people that helps, right? But for some people, they don't really need it. They just need to feel themselves, right? But then I feel like if everyone can feel themselves, then no one needs this mental idea as much, because every move you make will be the perfect move, even if you don't understand why. Like, I think the mental thing can give you some sort of confirmation, right? Which can be really helpful. But if you have just so much faith that what you're doing from your inner truth is on point, is correct, then yeah, you don't really need it, right? So I think on a foundational level, if you can master that, then it's like, baby, you're golden. So